Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why one of Colin Kaepernick's closest allies is making a huge mistake taking on the NFL.
And I'm Colin Cowherd. I'm dealing at the Mirage later today, and I'll tell you why Russell Westbrook is about to drive another star into OKC. Stephen liked that one. Speak for yourself starts now.
Steven Adams is leaving?
I said Steven Jackson. Oh, you're talking about Steven Adams.
Steven Adams is leaving. It's only star in OKC. All right, hello and welcome. Shout out to my guy Stuart Varney and all you soccer fans. Again, thanks for tuning in. We're joined today by NBA analyst Steven Jackson and Chris Broussard. Let's start in Toronto, where the Cavaliers came back from a big early deficit to beat the Raptors last night in a game where they didn't even have their first lead until overtime. LeBron finished with a triple-double, but struggled from the field, and after the game, he gave his teammates all the praise for the big victory.
And my teammates, they were unbelievable tonight. They stepped up when I wasn't as, wasn't at my best. I definitely wasn't efficient as I'd like to be. I missed a lot of open looks, a lot of open threes that they were going under. A lot of floaters in the lane. Because of the injury I had in Game 7, I didn't get an opportunity to kind of get on the court this morning and yesterday as well. So, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is trying to get a win. Probably one of my worst games of the season.
Do you feel like you guys let one get away?
For sure, without a doubt. We had many opportunities to close this game out. Like you said, we couldn't buy a bucket. We got some great looks. We had a lot of shots point blank at the rim that went in and out.
All right, just like the Pacers in round one, Toronto had a chance to put LeBron and company away, but couldn't get it done when it mattered most, missing shot after shot in the fourth quarter. Cowherd, who's to blame for the Raptors' collapse?
They're stars, Lowry and DeRozan. Listen, we give these stars all the love. They get the shoe deals. They get talked about in our show. They get the big Instagram accounts. But don't blame the sixth man. Don't blame the defensive guy when you lose a playoff game, because it's star territory. And when Washington loses, it's on John Wall, it's on Westbrook, and that's on DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. That was there. You're at home. You lead by double digits. That's where the stars have plays designed for them.
I'm going to sound like you on this. I blame LeBron James. He made the shot that put him into overtime. And to me, his defense on Kyle Lowry in certain stretches, I blame LeBron James for the collapse. I wasn't surprised by it. We've seen it before. This is what they do when LeBron James is on the court. He's the key ingredient. It's like, hey, he's always the common denominator. It's great what he got from his role players and his secondary players, but at the end of the day, I'm going to blame LeBron James for the Toronto collapse.
Let me say this. The Toronto Raptors are a well-run franchise. Masai Ujiri, their GM, is terrific. Dwayne Casey, last night notwithstanding, is a very good coach. But there is I don't want to get too spooky, but there's a spirit over that franchise like they're second rate. Yeah. I don't know. It might be because they're not in America, but they've never been able to keep a superstar. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Chris Bosh. They're building their team knowing they're second rate. Kyle Lowry, very good player, but was a journeyman before he went there. DeMar DeRozan, a star, not a superstar. And look at outside of those two guys, basically everybody else is international. They're getting guys that will stay in Toronto. They're not ready for prime time.
They're not.
So they'll be a good regular season team, first, second round, something like that. But they're not a prime time team.
Totally agree.
And that kind of engulfs the entire franchise.
I agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They've been a great regular season team for years, last couple of years. So it's not a surprise what they do in regular season. Me personally, I thought DeMar DeRozan was going to have a come-on-out party. I thought he was going to play well. I thought he was going to be able to be the guy to finish games for them in the playoffs. I was wrong. I was totally wrong. They both had a meltdown. But on another note, Cleveland has to thank Indiana and Toronto. Indiana blew that series, and Toronto last night, what I seen was all these games that teams are giving Cleveland, you're giving guys like J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, enough time to get a rhythm. Now, it's not going to be just said that Cleveland is not going to win the East, because now the role guys are starting to get a rhythm. LeBron's been carrying this team all this time. Now, Indiana, you give Cleveland all these games, Toronto, you give them the game last night, the other guys are getting the rhythm. They're going to be a dangerous team now the other guys are starting to play well.
Listen, there is something to be said. Who's winning the East right now? The one superstar player, LeBron James, and the one superstar coach, Brad Stevens. Who's winning the West right now? Superstar Curry Durant, superstar Harden. Like our entire lives, there's only been a couple of teams, the Sonics in the 70s and the Pistons over the Lakers, where stars, Rip Hamilton was a star. This is what happens. This is superstar territory.
I think, though, Chris there's a cloud over the franchise. But it always rains the hardest when LeBron is there. And so, again, I think some guys, again, when LeBron said, you know what, I'm going to take Kyle Lowry out of the game. Oh, and if necessary, I'll take DeMar DeRozan out of the game. Those guys melt. They couldn't even get the ball in bounds at a critical time. Dwayne Casey, I've been caping up for him all year. They didn't have a sideline out of bounds play at crunch time and got a 5-second call. It blew my mind.
But you know why that is? It's LeBron because he's really the only player in the East of that echelon. If they play Boston, they're not meeting anybody that's better than DeMar. If they play Philadelphia, they're a bunch of young kids. If they were in the West, Kevin Durant would do it to him. Steph Curry would do it to him. Harden would do it to him. Any of the real superstars would do this to the Raptors.
If you watch the game last night, the young guys, the only guys that didn't show like they were rattled. They defended LeBron well. The two young guys, they played well. The stars didn't show up, and that's what we've been seeing in regular season. They've shown up. Playoffs, they haven't been showing up, so it's not a surprise.
All the guys that we bragged about all year. Dwayne Casey had a bad night. DeRozan, Lowry, the big fella missed layup
after layup.
Van Vliet missed his two big shots.
How did he get the two big shots? Van Vliet. Who? How? I mean, seriously, how?
DeRozan driving and kicking. That's how he got the big one.
Steph Curry had a really strong return. The Warriors held on to win a really good game, Game 2 against New Orleans. Pelicans played well. The game featured some serious jawing between Draymond Green and Rondo right before halftime, which actually prompted Charles Barkley to go after Draymond on the air.
I just want to punch him in the face.
Why you don't like Draymond? Yo, Jay in Atlanta.
I want to punch him in the face.
Why you don't like Draymond?
I'm just telling you, I want to punch his ass in the face. I do.
I think a lot of guys talk on TV, stand behind a microphone and a TV screen. Fact of the matter is, if you feel that strongly about something, he's seen me a million times. If he feel that strongly about it, then punch me in my face when you see me. If you're not going to punch me in my face when you see me, then shut up. It's no different than somebody sitting behind a computer screen tweeting, I'll knock you out, and you never see him in life. Well, he's seen me a bunch of times, and he'll see me again this year. Punch me in the face when you see me, or if not, no one cares what you would have done. You old, and it is what it is. So if you ain't going to punch me when you see me, then stop talking about it, period.
I actually like Barkley and Draymond Green's response. Whitlock, does Barkley owe Draymond an apology?
Huge Charles Barkley fan. Huge. Biggest fan. He's got to apologize here. He made a mistake. I think he's aware of it. I just don't think you sit on TV, particularly when your job is to market the game and disrespect one of your peers and colleagues, one of the stars, role player, whomever. It shouldn't have happened. I just think Charles got caught up in being Charles Barkley. He's a little over the top, and he's trying to be funny. I expect Charles to apologize and back away from these statements.
It's 2018. People have apologized for less. But, I mean, when you watch that, it was television. Like, I didn't take it seriously. Shaq's laughing. Kenny's laughing. Ernie laughing. Like, I never once thought, you know, Charles going to punch him in the face.
I didn't think that, but you just don't say those type things.
Did it bother you?
Yeah, I mean, it bothered me, no, but I think he should apologize. I think he crossed the line. Like, he said things, he called LeBron's move when he went to Miami a punk move. You know, he said things that are fine, but you can't advocate violence. That's the thing. I might give him a pass. I hate to say it this way, if I thought he really would punch him. You know, like but he's going to see Draymond in the Western Conference Finals, and it's not going to be any problem. Maybe he'll be like, try to smile in his face or whatever. But I think sometimes Charles thinks that what he says on camera, guys aren't really going to take that way. Because you've heard a lot of players say, well, when I see him, he's cool, and he'll laugh in my face and smile in my face. but then on TV he's going to say stuff that's going to get you upset. Yeah. So.
Certain things, like you say, you just can't say. You know, I think Draymond responded the way any man will respond. You know, if you feel that way, then do it. If not, shut up. I think Shaq, like you said, he gets caught. I mean, not Shaq. Excuse me. Charles get caught up too much in Chuck on TNT instead of being Charles Barkley. You know, you can say certain things as being on TNT as that character as Chuck, but you got to live with those words. You know, and you can't talk about punch. You would punch him when there's a guy sitting 2 seats away from you that you had an actual fight with. If you don't have a problem with him, how could you have a problem with a guy that you don't barely even know? So Chuck, you know, a lot of players respect Chuck, but when he's on TV being a character, being Chuck instead of Charles Barkley, that's what a lot of players don't respect.
Look, again, I think he made a mistake, and I think he's going to cop to it. I'll say this, and I'm throwing a bit of a curveball here, but between what Chuck just did, Russell Westbrook slapping at a fan, and last night, Kendrick Perkins and Drake getting into it. It's like, I don't think these things would be going on if David Stern were the commissioner of this league. I think Adam Silver is so soft and there's so little respect for him that people are doing things completely out of character. Chris, you know very well, David Stern would go off on the television broadcasters. He'd call whoever's in control of ESPN or whoever it is. If he didn't like something that was being done on air, he would voice that opinion very strongly. I don't think Chuck would have made this mistake if David Stern were in the office. I think there would be repercussions for what Westbrook did. I don't think Kendrick Perkins would be fighting with Drake if there was some authority in the NBA.
I disagree.
Yeah, look, you're right. Stern ruled with an iron fist. But come on, Charles Barkley spit on a fan under David Stern's watch. You know,
and got punished for it.
But stuff was happening. I mean, the Knicks and the Rockets in the finals, you know, it was like a boxing match. Mm-hmm. The Malice in the Palace was under Stern's watch. Reggie Miller and Spike Lee, that was maybe fun, but
Kendrick Perkins.
Reggie Miller and Spike Lee going at it during the playoffs.
Kendrick Perkins ain't even dressed out.
You can't take that serious, though. That wasn't really what they blowing it up to be. That's just words between Drake and Perkins, which died right there. That's not a serious beat, but people respect what Chuck say. People listen to Chuck. You can't just say punch somebody. That's a whole different situation. Now, David Stern, you're right. He would jump into some stuff if it's beneficial for the league. But if it's a player that nobody really cares about, he's going to let that slide. So I agree with you to a certain extent. He put his foot down on certain stuff, but only when it was beneficial for the league, not just doing the right thing. He never did that.
I mean, even under Stern was still commissioner when Barkley said LeBron, who was the best player in the league, made a punk move.
Right.
That could have been detrimental to the league, and he still let that. I'm just saying.
That's more defensible than what he did last night.
Right.
I think the whole.
I agree, but I'm just saying Stern didn't jump on Barkley.
I tend to think, and I can't wait to hear what Chuck says tonight. I tend to think he's looking at Draymond, who had some antics going on in the first half when he was hot. I think Chuck sees himself, because that's what kind of blew me away is like, well, hold on, Draymond is kind of the modern-day Charles Barkley.
With less skill.
Yeah, it's kind of, and so I think Chuck sees himself in Draymond and inappropriately expressed some frustration with what Draymond was doing. It's like, damn, you're doing the same thing I was doing.
But Draymond does a lot of stuff that Chuck couldn't do, too. Like, you can't say he's just way more talented than Draymond. Draymond does stuff that Chuck couldn't do. He's a better passer, better teammate. Better teammate, better defender, yeah.
Better practice player, for sure. Charles didn't practice. All right, welcome back. Joined now by Super Bowl champ Greg Jennings. Let's move to the National Football League, where former 49ers safety Eric Reid has joined Colin Kaepernick and filed a grievance against the NFL, alleging that owners colluded to prevent him from getting a job as payback for his involvement in the national anthem protests started by Kaepernick back in 2016. Reid has remained unsigned since becoming a free agent in March, and the Players Association is standing behind him, saying, quote, "Our union's aware that Eric Reid and his legal reps filed a collusion claim, which will be heard through the arbitration process, as spelled out in our collective bargaining agreement. Our union supports Eric, and we are considering other legal options to pursue." Whitlock, what's your reaction to this?
That NFL players, coaches, broadcasters love to say it's a privilege to play in the NFL, not a right. And then as soon as you don't get a job, you feel entitled. It's your, what do you mean? I'm not getting a job. It's my right to have a job. It is not your right. And as I've explained a million times, it's a television show. And if you decide to go off script in a way that the television producers and the networks, like, hey, that's not part of our script, and they decide to write you out of their script, don't come whining to me. Don't come complaining. It's a television show. That's all it is. It's not, everybody has been convinced because a group of liberals have been saying, oh, it's your platform. No, it's their platform. The NFL will go on long after Colin Kaepernick, long after Michael Bennett. It was here before them. It'll be here after them. So it's not their platform.
Well, he's the 43rd ranked free agent. If you went to a therapist, this sounds like what they call projecting, blaming others. It's like, I didn't get picked up. Well, you were the 43rd ranked free agent. In fact, the Niners at one point moved you to linebacker. So I don't buy into this. If you're political, the league doesn't want you. Malcolm Jenkins, Chris Long, and Michael Bennett. I mean, Michael Bennett's brand now is like political and football. And the best team in the league wanted him, and the Patriots bid on him, and he chose between the two best organizations in football. I don't believe if you kneeled, they're canceling you out. There's 35, 45 guys. Well, I say that. There's 100 guys that kneeled that are still in the league. So I don't buy that kneeling got you out of the league. If you're good, this league, Michael Bennett was unemployed for a minute. And Philadelphia's like, we'll take him. And the Patriots are like, we'll take him. And Bennett had his choice of where to go.
Yeah, I think it's beyond just the kneeling. And I think Eric Reed, he has a point in feeling like there's some collusion. Being able to prove that is a whole different thing. It's almost virtually impossible to prove that. His tie to Colin Kaepernick is why he is not on the team. Bottom line. When you think about what he did last November, the Players Coalition, he walked away from that. Got Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden, the co-founders, guys who were trying to sit down with league officials and make sure that there was some common ground to make this better for both player and league. He walked away from that because he felt like they were compromising. They were going to ask him, are you willing to stop kneeling if the league donates to a cause, your cause, whatever the case may be? He was unwilling to do those things. So I think it's a matter of him tying himself too closely to Colin Kaepernick. And is he a good player? He is a good player. Should he be on a roster? Possibly. But is he good enough to expend? No, I mean, yes. When you're under contract, I have to deal with you. When you're a free agent, look, I don't have to bring everything that you bring to the table politically, especially when it's against what we're trying to do as a league. And we're working with your counterparts, your colleagues, in fixing this whole deal. Yeah, it's uphill battle.
This whole thing started originally. His first comments about this, you go back a month or two ago, and it was, they think they can get me for cheap because I was part of the protest. This is about money and expectations. He's not getting the kind of financial offers he wanted, and then because he's played things too far to the extreme and his expectations are too high, people are like, man, I just don't want to be bothered. And again, he has a group of people clapping as he lights himself on fire, throws away his financial future. Right thing, Eric. Great job. Same thing they telling Kaepernick as they light their careers and millions of dollars on fire, money they could have used to support the cause they believe in. People are sitting over, great job, guys.
One of the things you said, athletes look at their sport as a platform. So let's take an athlete and a Hollywood actor. Does he consider Broadway and the movie a platform? No. He does his charities before the movie and after. Okay, an athlete has actually more venues and avenues to go political. He's got a shoe company. He's probably got a bigger Instagram and Twitter account. He can come on shows like this. If an actor doesn't consider the movie a platform, you go on Broadway, I pay for the producers or rent. That's not your platform. Now, by the way, before they could be something you hand out in support. I've gone to concerts before, and I know, but when I go to U2 concerts, that stage is not their platform. They sing songs. Something happened where there's a lot of athletes that think, hey, this is my 3 hours a week that I have to tell you how I think, and I just think do it the 6.5 days before and the half day after the game.
Because they've been lied to by an agenda that one is after football and trying to change sports culture, and they've been lied to, and they believe the lie that 3 hours when they earn their money is the time to actually burn down your neighborhood and your business.
How would you have, if this would have gone on in your prime years, how would you have reacted to it?
That's a tough question. Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's easy for me to sit back right now and say I would have knelt or I would not have knelt. I really don't know how I would have handled it. I know me, I'm not
divisive.
I'm not very divisive, but I want to get my point across. But to your point, there is a time and a place, and I always say that, you know, sometimes with how this all started, what better platform could they have used? I don't know. But would I have done it? Possibly not. But back to Eric Reid, like, he went on a visit with the Bengals. And it's reported a question was asked to him by their owner, Mike Brown. Are you going to continue the protest of kneeling again during the anthem? Do you know what his response was? I don't know. He didn't say no. He could have said no. He could have said, you know what? That's in the past. No, that's done. And then, even if he would have gotten signed, still did whatever he wanted to do. But sometimes...
Not willing to play the game.
No, exactly. You have to play the game. If you're going to do this, you got to play the game.
Everybody. Colin Cowherd has to play the game. I have to play the game. Everybody does. But again, we're lying to these athletes, and you don't have to play the game. Do whatever you want. Destroy your career, destroy your financial future for the cause.
Jason, there's no question that there's a sense in sports that the NBA owners and players are more aligned. Even they say, don't mess with our anthem.
Their TV show. All right, welcome back. Greg Jennings is back. We're joined now by the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Tom Brady, who sparked a media firestorm this week by pleading the fifth when asked if he feels like the Patriots and Bill Belichick appreciate what he's done for them. Well, now he's sending some more cryptic messages, this time on Instagram, posting a picture of himself working out on the beach and quoting Muhammad Ali. He misspelled Muhammad, by the way, saying, quote, "The more real you get, the more unreal it gets." Cowherd, go into your brain and decipher this for us. What is Brady saying here?
Well, Tom has chosen a different vehicle for his message. He used to be on radio in Boston every Monday. Every single Monday. And then that station said something about his daughter, and he's like, I'm out. And now he's chosen Instagram as his place to deliver messages. They're a little more cryptic, but Tom's always wanted his message out. Every single Patriot game, he'd go on and tell people, here's the way we're doing it in Boston. That was for like 10 years. Now he's, like a lot of us, chosen a social media platform to get his message out. I just think he's just said, you know what, this Instagram thing, it's a really good way. Show a little picture, have a little quote. People talk about me. I'm out there in that space.
The more real I get, the more unreal it gets. I can't figure this out because is this being real, this cryptic message? Is this being real? So I would, again, I have very few complaints about Tom Brady this offseason. I don't understand this one here. I guess he's saying the more I point out that Bill Belichick blew the Super Bowl, the more unreal the media's reaction is. Maybe
Let me offer some help, Jason. So basically, we want athletes to be honest. We demand candor from athletes. And then they're honest with us, as Brady was on this panel. And what happened? People are tearing him to shreds. Oh, my gosh, he hates Bill Belichick. So the more honest he is, the more unreal the reaction is. And I feel like people are maybe overreacting a little bit to this. I feel like,
he's right. I think that's right.
It feels like he was being honest and genuine. He didn't have to give this interview to Jim Gray, did he? He didn't have to.
That's
He's
pretty
like,
good
yeah, I'll
work
talk
there
to him.
by that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's simple. He's done being a yes man. Bottom line, you can like it however you want. A yes man, Tom Brady has always been that guy that Bill Belichick has been able to use as an example for free agents coming in, for draftees, for the entire organization. He's done with it. He can't use Tom Brady as an example to lure these guys into following suit because Tom Brady is done. He's older. He's feeling like
he can't do this to him
No. Ain't no more of this. He got out.
I think Jason. But
Mac,
I think what you basically said though is he's just telling you, man, I'm honest, and you guys freak out, and that's kind of what's happening now.
I like Greg's theory. It's just slightly better, and that's maybe because I want to stir the pot. But I really do, because I think you're right. Listen, I've been complaining all summer. You got all these Belichick bots out in the media, and they all come on, and anything Bill Belichick does, they can explain. Tom Brady's not with that anymore. There's a different tone to Brady, and there's going to be a different tack taken with Belichick. Someone, Brady, I guess, is going to hold him accountable.
Yeah, he has been doing these, like, quotes of faith. I saw one during the season, and he had that warrior one during the playoffs. So, you know, listen, as a, Instagram user, I'm not as prolific as Greg, although I do follow you. You know, sometimes you don't have any photos of the kids, or you don't have a football photo. You want to just get inspirational, and maybe that's what he was doing here. Just no deep, dark story behind it. He was just tossing up an inspirational quote.
Like, I don't like to speak for somebody, but Tom Brady, man, I won these Super Bowls. I've been here for all these. These are mine, man.
To another future Hall of Famer, one of my favorites, Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben's been hitting at retirement past couple of years, but after the Steelers drafted a possible successor in Mason Rudolph last week, Ben changed his tune entirely, saying, quote, I plan on being here for 3 to 5 more years. If he's going to be their guy, that's great, but in my perfect world, it's not going to be for a while. Whitlock, does Big Ben look desperate here?
Colin, do you know the slang thirsty?
Yeah.
He looks very thirsty here. Someone needs to get him a cup of water. He's run his mouth all that, I'm going to retire. I'm thinking about retiring. I got to take a moment. That was a shot at Mike Tomlin and Todd Haley. And so the Steelers said, oh, you might retire. Well, let's take a quarterback. And now he's backpedaling. Oh, I'm going to play 3 to 5 more years. He hasn't taken care of himself well enough to play 5 more years.
You know what he looks like to me? Competitive. We know Garoppolo got the juices flowing in Brady. Mm-hmm. We kind of know, by the way, Steve Young with Montana. I mean, to me, I look at this and I think to myself, this is how, by the way, we just saw a guy in our business retire in New York, an hour later come back. You know, I mean, that's the...
Big Ben and Francesca, huh?
No, but I mean, what I see is a guy be like, oh, you want to get me out of here? I did throw for 335 a game last 7 games last year and 3 touchdowns a game. I'm okay with athletes being competitive.
Yeah, I think this is beyond competitive. I think this is, in my opinion, very adolescent.
Whoa!
Yes, very immature on Ben. You're a 14, 15-year veteran quarterback, and somebody can entice you with the question that you give us all this, you give us the answer that everybody, number one, would love for you to give. Like your last, like Ben, he's a 3rd-round guy. Relax, and then you're the leader of our team, and we wonder why Antonio Brown feels the need that he's able to Facebook Live in the locker room, because your leader, your franchise quarterback, is always saying something about Mike Tomlin, always speaking out when things are supposed to be undisclosed. You're always disclosing information. Ben, stop.
Loose lips, sink ships.
Greg, what is he supposed to say? I mean, what is the protocol when you're a quarterback and they just draft one? Because remember,
a 3rd-round guy?
Took Josh Dobbs out of Tennessee 2 years ago. They drafted Landry Jones from Oklahoma, I think 4 years ago. If smart teams like your Patriots continue to draft quarterbacks, they have the most currency. You can flip them for picks later on. That's what the Patriots have done. This isn't a bad move by the Steelers, and it's not a bad comment by Ben. He's saying what the answer to the question. That's his thoughts. I'm not going anywhere. What's wrong with that? Why are we killing him?
Let's say he's a little needy. LeBron isn't. Kobe wasn't.
Some
of these guys that move into the mogul stage, they get a little delusional. They get a little needy.
I do think he's being needy and adolescent. Big Ben has been my favorite player for years. I don't like this. He is diminishing himself the last few years. It refocuses. He threw that interception and then blamed the coaching staff. Things like that. Big Ben's not handling things well here. There's no reason to go. Mason Rudolph's no threat to him. And you shouldn't have been running your mouth last year about retirement because you weren't serious, clearly. Now you're going to play another 3 to 5 years. And this is a money grab. See, he wrote a check last year about retirement. Now that it's time to cash a check and maybe get a new contract, oh, I'm going to play 3 to 5 more years. Pay me some more money. I don't like it.
Welcome back, Steven Jackson, Chris Broussard. Let's move to Oklahoma City. I mean, not literally. No. Apparently, where the Thunder just got bounced from the playoffs, and now it looks like Paul George is about to bounce in free agency. My buddy Ryan Russillo reporting that George is, quote, gone from OKC. Coming into the year, PG was considered a top prize. Kind of a disappointing season playing alongside Russell Westbrook. Whitlock, do you think Paul George's year in OKC actually hurts his free agency value?
In my mind, yes. I think there'll be people like you and others that will blame it all on Russell Westbrook.
Oh, come on.
And say he'll go on and have a great career like everybody else. But to me, he's not a max player. He's certainly not a #1 star. Do I think if I'm LeBron James, I go, oh, is he the key second ingredient for me if I go somewhere? No. That, to me, is off the table. Is he the fix or the next level for the Philadelphia 76ers? I don't think so. So, to me, he's diminished himself with this year he had in OKC.
I think he was saved. I think everything you said would be true, except the Utah series changed Westbrook's brand from Mr. Triple-Double to Mr. Nothing But Trouble. And I look at that series and the reaction of the fans and how he dealt with the media and 43 shots and 19 threes, and I think the brand is like, oh, well, Westbrook's hard to play with. Because now we got a Durant thing. And now we watch Victor Oladipo double his numbers. And Enes Kanter's better. And De'Aaron White is... We got a brand here. Like when you play with Westbrook, he's great, but he's hard to play with. And I think it saves Paul George. I think it saves him.
You're going to keep pounding that Nothing But Trouble until it catches on, right?
No.
I mean, look.
I'm trying with Nothing But Trouble. What was the rap song?
I think this added to the narrative that George is not a #1 guy. I do think he's a max guy, but not a #1 guy. I think in Indiana, we saw they lost in the first round the last 2 years with him as #1. And not only what happened in OKC, but the fact that Indiana got better without him in a deal people thought they got fleeced on, I think that hurt him a little bit. I'll say about the Lakers. If I'm the Lakers and getting Paul George is going to get me LeBron James, I'm maxing him out, no problem. If I'm only getting Paul George, I'm not sure I'm maxing. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but it's not a no-brainer because in a couple years, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, Kyle Kuzma, maybe they're as good or close to as good as Paul George.
Well, another question is, too, speaking on Paul George, who played well in OKC's offensive system this year? Nobody. Nobody played well. It was the offense, to me, that nobody played well. That's why Paul George didn't have a great year, because the offense wasn't set up for him to succeed. Along with playing with Russ, who's nobody not pulling back a little bit. They should have pulled Russ back, but I think he is a max player. I think he's still top 3 best player to go both ways. Him and Kawhi, he's still in that category.
I agree with
for
that.
sure.
I agree.
For sure. He's
two-way player?
Two-way players, he's definitely in the top 3.
Klay Thompson.
Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Name somebody else.
He's not a #1, though.
He's not a #1, but he's in the top 5.
Yeah, but he's a number 2.
He's top 5. He's top 5.
I agree with that.
And I think Philly is the perfect place for him. Now, if I'm Philly, I'd go after LeBron and Kawhi before George, but I think he'd be great in Philadelphia.
Let me give you a football thing. Now, we all know who Brett Favre is. But when you look at Brett Favre's career, and I say Jets, we all sort of think, well, was that crazy year in New York? Let's say Paul George plays 5 years for the Sixers. Are we going to look back and go, well, that was that crazy year with Westbrook and OKC?
Not at all.
See, I think people are going to look at it and just say, it was that year that Westbrook imploded on
them. It wasn't a horrible year. I mean, he averaged 21. He shot 41%.
All-star. He wasn't an all-star. He made it, someone got hurt and they gifted him.
Well, if I would have made it that way, I would accept it. As hard as I worked to get there, if somebody got hurt and they moved me in, I'm still an all-star.
He's a two-way player. Is Giannis not a two-way player? Is Anthony Davis not a two-way player?
Anthony
Davis is definitely a two-way.
Is Andrew Wiggins a two-way player?
Oh, come
Yes.
on.
Not as
You
good as
can't.
Paul George.
Jimmy Butler?
Jimmy Butler definitely.
Butler isn't.
You shouldn't have said Andrew Wiggins. You hurt yourself with that one. Jimmy Butler, you're right. Andrew Wiggins, no. He can get crossed over in the phone booth. No way. Jimmy Butler, yes.
All right, let's move to Toronto, where the Raptors dropped a game 1 of the Eastern semis to LeBron and the Cavaliers last night. Cleveland started slow last night, but they ended up getting production from some guys who don't really show up in round 1, who didn't show up in round 1, and came back to steal the game from a Raptors team that just can't figure out how to beat LeBron James. Cowherd, you think Cleveland cruises to the finals now?
No, they're not Mike Tyson. There's no knockout punch here. I said this yesterday. They're Larry Holmes. They jab you a little bit, a little body shots, outsmart you.
Let me toughen the question then. Do you think they make it to the NBA Finals?
After last night, it's closer. Last night was the first game that all the other guys played great. 4 teammates played great.
Exactly.
But listen, here's what the Eastern Conference is. We have one superstar player, LeBron. We have one superstar coach, Brad Stevens, and we have one prodigy, Ben Simmons. The rest of it is just filling tables. The rest of it's garnish. The rest of it's condiments. We got a superstar player, we got a superstar coach, and we got a prodigy. And the prodigy, again...
And Embiid, too. 2 prodigies.
When he's available. My prodigy is more available than your prodigy. But the point is by the way, LeBron doesn't have great players around him anymore, so this is not Mike Tyson knocking guys out in the first round.
We went from a Game 7 against Indiana where we're like, man, they ain't going to make the finals, to 1 game now, and I think legit they will make it to the NBA Finals. I think that LeBron James, he got to back off a little bit, and his supporting cast did more. But to me, he was still great. I know he thinks his worst game of the season. So he shot 40% from the field. Everything else was tremendous. He got a triple-double. And he hit the shot. You know, that one shot to put him into overtime, to me, makes up for 40% shooting. Too. Yeah, and the defensive end. And so I don't think Philly's mature enough. Boston's way too hurt. And I know Brad Stevens is a magician. But, yeah, I think they get to the NBA Finals. They don't cruise by any stretch, but I'm not betting against LeBron.
But one thing people don't understand is on the way to an NBA championship, to get one of these, a lot of things have to go your way. You have to have a little luck. Cleveland has had a lot of luck in that first round. They started off with lucky with getting back in this game and winning this game 1 in Toronto. It's starting to favor them because, like I said, their role players are starting to play well, and LeBron can get a triple-double, not play well, and still win. I see them coming out the East.
It wasn't just that Jeff Green was good, or Tristan was good, and J.R. Smith was good, and Korver was good.
They didn't woke up.
Yeah, to your point, the downside is basketball is very much above the shoulders, especially for shooters. It's now a shooters league.
Right.
That's what it is. It's not Charles Oakley, where he could go to the arena every night and I'm going to kick some arse, I'm going to play defense. It's a shooters league. Shooters can get stuff into their head. That team this morning feels like we got it back. Mm-hmm. We can all hit now.
I picked them to reach the East even when they were struggling with reach the finals, even when they were struggling with Indiana, and I feel better about that now. The role players, though, look, they still have. I'm not sure they're going to continue to do this every night,
right.
And that's why I do think, with you, like you said, they won't cruise. Mm-hmm. It'll be a struggle. I think Philadelphia could beat them. I would pick Cleveland, but Philadelphia is capable of beating them. I don't think Boston could beat them with this cast of role players. I don't think they could beat LeBron.
As much as Colin thinks it's a shooters league, and there's truth to that, but I think in playoff time, it's about defense as much as anything. And their defense in the second half, and particularly in the fourth quarter, that's what was missing all regular season. It wasn't just that Toronto missed shots, because they did miss some layups, but the right people were actually shooting the ball, right. And that has to do with defense.
It has a lot to do with it, and defense wins championships. That's the old saying, and it's true. And people look at Golden State's offense, but their offense is a part of their defense. People don't understand that, you know. And this is one of the best defensive teams in the league. Defenses win games, and if you letting LeBron just walk to the basket and getting wide open shots for his role players, you don't have a chance.
Tristan Thompson, by the way, was dead. And like the last 3 games, he's become like the Tristan of last year. So maybe you can do that in the East. You can't do that against Golden State and Houston. He's a liability. But in the East, we're seeing Tristan Thompson for what they signed him for, 14-12. There's real value. Last night, there was real value with him.
If they can get their young guys to start playing well, then they really will be clicking. Because Rodney Hood, Larry Nance didn't even play last night. Clarkson, because I don't know who you can count on for 19 points a night. Like one night it might be Corver. We know JR is going to be up and down. I can't count on Kevin Love anymore, but they just need 2 or 3 guys every game. It can be different guys, but somebody needs to fill out that scoring sheet.
They were watching our show. Because remember I said that teams need to pick on Kyle Korver? Toronto did that last night. That's how they got the big lead. They went away from it. Let Cleveland back in the game.
He got some
going at Kyle Korver, you go at him when he's on defense, they'll take him out the game. That's one shooter you ain't got to worry about.
Welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to the Warriors, who got 28 points out of Steph Curry last night and held on to go up 2-0 over the Pelicans. Cowherd, with Steph's dominant performance, a big deal.
Yeah, because a superstar was like, you don't have to start me. What if they went to Westbrook and said, hey, you're not starting?
They went to Melo.
Okay. Steph Curry recruited a guy that's better than him, and then last night he's like, hey, man, I don't need to start. That's why I love Steph Curry. He gets what's happening in San Francisco. He gets it.
When you're totally secure with yourself and totally confident.
Yes, thank you.
Again, if, like, Carmelo needs to be taking notes here, his refusal to go to the bench is some insecurity. A lot of guys can learn from Steph Curry. All right, to Toronto, where Raptors guard Fred VanVleet tried to get physical with LeBron James after battling for position under the basket last night. Cowherd, do you think do you like VanVleet stepping to LeBron?
No. That's not a good
Stupid.
space. Yeah, I mean, that's not. First of all, you're at home, you're favored. This is a franchise-changing series. He's in your head. LeBron's in your head. That's what he was.
It's the little tough guy syndrome. LeBron's 6'9", 250 pounds, made of vibranium. Why even go there? It's fake tough.
You had
guys.
Drake
Studio
going
games.
after going after Kendrick Perkins.
That's right. He should have put Drake on his shoulders and then gone after LeBron.